Bill Weber is chair of the Senate Agriculture, Rural Development, and Housing Policy Committee. I spoke with him about seeds, noxious weeds, and COVID-19's impact on the rural economy.
There are a number of changes in the Omnibus Agriculture Policy Bill that have to do with seeds. What problems are you trying to solve?
Well, in many respects, there's a lot of technical changes in for the benefit of the agency, but also one of the things that will be dealt with is the creation of a seed program advisory committee, which will consist of farmers, people from the grain industry, the seed industry, the University of Minnesota, and others, in an effort to make sure that we continue to be on top of all the noxious weeds that are out there, and also to help certify the industrial hemp seeds, which are coming about more regularly within the state as that program has grown, and to ensure that they don't produce a crop that is in excess of the 0.03% THC level that, quite frankly, mandates that a crop needs to be destroyed if it reaches that.
So, as you mentioned, industrial hemp can now be grown legally in the state, and sometimes the seeds are not quite right, and so growers are growing something that has too much THC, and this is an effort to really stop that from happening? That
is going to be one of the purposes of the committee, yes.
Let's move on to noxious weeds, which you also mentioned. I know that noxious weeds can kind of creep in seeds that are mislabeled, or maybe they're not put together well enough to ensure, quality seed. In terms of noxious weeds, what are we still experiencing in the state, and what are the latest efforts, in addition to, seeds, to kind of tackle that issue?
Well, of course, the most recent occurrence of noxious weeds occurred with Palmer amaranth in the last couple of years, and the department has undertaken an aggressive stand to go out once Palmer amaranth is noticed, to go out and actually physically destroy the crop, that's the plants that are there, burn the plants together with the seeds that may be there, and so in this year's session, short as it has been, we have not necessarily heard of a lot of new instances of breakouts of Palmer amaranth, but it is an issue that we will continue to monitor, need to monitor, because it's just something we don't dare let get a foothold in the state.
And finally, before you go, I know there are a number of challenges facing farmers right now due to COVID-19. There's the destruction of livestock due to lack of processing. There's the fact that we're driving less, and so less need for ethanol. What other problems are farmers facing, and can the legislature help?
Well, at this point, in terms of the hog problem that we've encountered due to the lesser production capabilities of our packing plants, we have provided some assistance in terms of the disposal of those carcasses, and that becomes an expensive process. It's an amount that we hopefully will, and we believe we will be reimbursed for by the federal government. But it's just something that we as a state had to assume some responsibility for in order to get that process moving in terms of the composting of the carcasses and that type of thing. In terms of actual monetary reimbursement for lost hogs, the dollars are so great that, quite frankly, if the number of hogs have to be euthanized this summer that have been, quite frankly, projected, we're looking at a loss of well over $200 million worth of sales of hogs, live hogs. And quite frankly, with the budget shortfall that's coming up on the state, there's just no way that we can manage to provide that. One of the other elements that's will probably be dealt with this week yet is also additional extension of farmer lender mediation timelines, because if indeed we should start to see anyone declare bankruptcy, if we start to see our hog owners go bankrupt, there will be a serious ripple effect within the ag economy, and we're going to need some time for everyone to get things worked out.
Senator Bill Weber, thank you for your time.
You're most welcome. Have a good day. God bless.